Hey guys, I put out a video a little while ago explaining the process of how to make espresso. You can see me doing that right now in the background, but the other video has a lot more explanation, so I'll put a link to that in the description. Thankfully that tutorial got a good reaction, and a few people have started to ask me about how to steam milk for lattes and cappuccinos. It took a while for me to make this video, since I remember that steaming milk was one of the hardest things for me to learn when I first started making espresso drinks. I pretty much needed to learn through trial and error by making horrible cappuccino after horrible cappuccino. So, in this video, I'll try to be as specific as I can so that you can create beautiful microfoamed milk as soon as possible. I'll present this tutorial in 3 parts. First, I'll go through the high-level steps of making steamed milk. Second, I'll give specific tips on how to position the steam wand for best results. And then finally, I'll show you my attempt at latte art, but no promises, I'm not very good at it. The 4 things that you'll need to steam milk are, well, milk, an espresso machine with a steam wand, a steaming pitcher, and a towel for cleaning the wand. For the milk, I've heard people make really broad claims about how skim milk is so much better or worse for steaming than whole milk, but honestly, I've had good success with both. The only things I've struggled with are non-dairy milks like almond milk. Personally, I use 1% simply because I like the taste best. In terms of espresso machines, I might do a video later about how to choose a good machine, but in terms of the wand, really there's only one thing that matters to you. Does it have a knob to turn on the steam, or does it have just a button? Either can work well, but the benefit of a knob is that you will have a really high degree of control over the pressure of the steam. So if you want to make really high quality milk for making latte art, then you're probably going to want a machine with a knob. For the steaming pitcher, this might sound obvious, but don't use anything that can be broken by fast changes in temperature. I once actually shattered a pint glass by steaming milk in it. Your best bet is going to be the classic metal steaming pitcher, usually around 12 ounces. Also, if you want to make latte art, you'll want to get a pitcher with a sharp spout so that you'll have a lot of control over where the milk pours. I'll place a link in the description showing where you can buy such a pitcher. Finally, for cleaning, any paper towel or hand towel will do. To begin steaming milk, first bring over your towel and steaming pitcher. You'll see here that my pitcher is frosted since I store mine in the freezer. Keeping both the pitcher and the milk as cold as possible before steaming will help the process. Then, fill up your pitcher with milk. Usually only fill 1/4 to 1/3 of the way up, since the steaming process will naturally increase the volume of the milk and you want to avoid any spills. Next, get your towel wet by applying some steam to it. We do this because a wet towel will be much easier to clean the wand with, but it's also useful because it will empty out any water that might be in the steam wand before use. Now we can finally begin actually steaming the milk. Dip your wand below the surface of the milk and turn on the wand. Slowly lower your pitcher, raising the wand with respect to the surface of the milk, until you hear the right sound. I'll give you some better examples for what the right sound is after we finish this part, but for now I'll simply let you hear the audio. You'll know when to stop steaming when you feel the side of the pitcher and it becomes too hot to touch. You can steam beyond this point, but you risk burning the milk. Once done, turn off the steam wand, remove the pitcher, and immediately purge the wand by turning it on again. This helps keep any residual milk from making its way up the wand through capillary action. Cleaning rancid milk out of a steam boiler is an awful process, so make sure to always purge your steam wand after use. After purging once, wipe down your wand with the wet towel, purge once again, and you're good to go. One final step that you might want to do if you're making latte art is to just knock the pitcher against the table a few times to break up any larger bubbles. The thing that I found most challenging when I was learning how to steam milk was how deep to put the wand. The goal of steaming milk actually isn't to just apply steam, the goal is to create milk foam. We make that by using the steam to force small pockets of air into the milk. This means that the wand shouldn't be too deep into the milk, such that there will be no air surrounding it to be forced into the milk, and the wand also shouldn't be too far above the surface of the milk, such that the steam would simply force air over the surface of the milk rather than into it. You can control how deep the wand is by raising or lowering the pitcher with your hand, but since you're probably not a barista, you might forget exactly how high you placed your hand the last time you successfully managed to steam milk. For this reason, I've found that listening to the sound of the steaming process is the best way to know if your wand is too deep or too shallow. So I'll show you and let you listen to clips of me purposefully going too low or too high with the wand so that you can learn the right position. Notice how when the wand has been placed too deep, there never really is any air entering into the milk, and so there are completely no bubbles at all. Placing the wand too shallow ends up basically just splashing the milk everywhere, and results in really large bubbles that end up breaking as soon as you pour them into the coffee. Here we see the end goal, microfoam, basically really small bubbles that we've gotten by adjusting our depth of the wand to be just the right level. Now I've made like 6 or 7 lattes, so all my coworkers that I've given them to are quite happy, and thankfully I have coffee too for this next step. Alright, so the last thing that I wanted to talk about was basically just the angle at which you apply the steam. This is surprisingly hard to capture on camera, so I figured that we could just do it on the whiteboard. Let's take a look. So basically we've got our pitcher here, and it's drawn at roughly the angle that you would be holding it at. You've got the handle there, and sort of the steam is going to be coming in from this side. But to apply it here, do you apply it here, do you apply it directly here? It's kind of a question, so hopefully I can try to help us out here. So we've got the milk that is lying flat, because that's how gravity works. And then we've got our steam wand, and because we can sort of angle it, how do we want to have it? So what you want to do is you want to run your steam down like this. And the reason why we're going to have this angle is because the goal is to create a stream, or a sort of cycle, of steam and air. Because what we talked about was that the goal is not actually to add steam to the milk, because that would just cause, well, watery, hot milk. The goal is to get those bubbles, and those bubbles come from the air. So we're trying to have this sort of cyclic idea where we have, more and more air entering into it. So what if we chose a different angle? What if instead of having it like that, instead we angle it straight on? Well, that's not good, because what that means is that you're going to send the steam directly down to the bottom, and it's going to sort of come up, but it's a little bit more chaotic. It's sort of going in every direction, because it's sort of being shot really fast at the bottom of this. And this means that you don't have as cyclic of a motion, of movement of the fluid, which means you're not able to get as much air inside. While I'm by no means an expert in latte art, I figured it might be useful to have at least some amount of information for those of you who are curious to give it a shot. The first thing that we're going to need to do is make some espresso. The next thing that you'll want to do is steam some milk. Make sure not to use milk that you'd steamed previously, as I show in this clip, since the milk and the foam will completely separate. Once you've steamed some fresh milk, start by pouring the milk down the side of the cup with espresso in it. Hopefully you'll find a gradient where the beginning is much more liquid and then slowly it becomes more and more like foam. Once you see that the milk you're pouring is more foam than milk, you'll be able to draw a fun pattern on the espresso. Here I do my best attempt at a letter B, but I'm not very good at this, so I usually just pour the rest into my cup. Thanks so much for listening. I hope that you found this video interesting and useful. Give it a like if you enjoyed what you saw, and let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you'd like to hear about. See ya!